Dr. Mathew Cross is an individual who is quite elusive while playing the forest, but his story goes so much deeper. While you first see Mathew Cross on the plane when you spawn into the game, as he steals your son Timmy, his story starts much sooner. Mathew Cross was a regular man who had a wife named Jessica and a child named Megan. He was also a high-ranking individual with Sahara Therapeutics, the company who owns the island in the game. Through emails and documents you can find within the game, it is heavily implied that Mathew Cross was an abusive father or spouse. This is hinted with an email from Jessica to Mathew which includes, "Please don't contact me again," and a drawing by Megan where she depicts him as an angry monster. There is another email that can be found that displays the beginning of Mathew's descent into madness. It's Mathew's response to an email from Jessica saying, "Keep away from us, don't contact me again," where Mathew says, "If you file for divorce, you will regret it," with Megan's school photo attached. Mathew is clearly implying that if Jessica is to file for divorce, Megan would be in danger. A document found within a cave is a restraining order against Mathew Cross from Jessica. This signals that they were heading for divorce, and of course, Mathew is going to keep his promise. Mathew began by killing the lawyers responsible for him losing custody and for the restraining order. Their bodies can be found within a cave on the island. After beheading the lawyers, he stole his daughter back and stabbed his ex-wife to death, as stated by an autopsy report found within the caves. A tape that you can find in the caves shows Megan's arrival to the island, where she is wearing a mask, which could mean that she was sick when she was brought here. There is another tape that shows Megan in a wheelchair. Perhaps Mathew stole Megan in an attempt to use his research on the island to cure her of her illness. Another tape shows a group of researchers monitoring a caged Armsy. Megan can also be seen in her wheelchair. As they're watching the Armsy, it breaks out and begins attacking everyone, and they all run away, including the man wheeling around Megan, leaving her helpless and ultimately getting her killed by the Armsy. Mathew Cross gets fired soon after for unethical and inappropriate use of company equipment. This was the last straw for Mathew Cross, as he hits his rock bottom and begins painting himself red and living within the vents of the laboratory. He begins to leave notes around the island. These notes are written on pages torn out of a Bible. They include messages like, "A jealous God punishes a parent's fault on their children. She's not dead, she is sleeping. And don't be afraid, just believe." A jealous God punishes a parent's fault on their children is in reference to the Old Testament, where the same sentiment is said multiple times. Mathew is writing this because he believes the death of his daughter is the result of his own sins, while the notes saying, "She's not dead, she is sleeping, and don't be afraid, just believe," are displaying Mathew's mental state, as he is deluded into thinking she's just sleeping rather than dead, and that he must believe in order to bring Megan back to life. Using the research that him and his colleagues gathered, he used the second artifact to crash the plane the main character is on. After the plane crashes, he heads down and takes Timmy. This is the first time he is ever seen in the game. From this point on, he can sometimes be visible in the world, but disappearing if the player decides to approach. Mathew Cross takes Timmy back to the lab, where he inserts him into the obelisk, using him to bring his daughter, Megan, back to life. He was successful in bringing Megan back to life. However, in doing so, permanently altered her DNA, resulting in her becoming a mutant. Regarding everything he's done up until this point, Mathew leaves clues around the island to help the player find their son, such as a Polaroid showing the location of the keycard required to enter the lab. Returning to the lab after his excursions, he continues to take care of Megan until eventually Megan turns on her father and stabs his face full of crayons before writing, "Daddy is dead," on the whiteboard behind him. This is the end of the story of Mathew Cross. Thank you to everyone who watched this once again. I know this is a lot shorter than my last one, but there just isn't as much to go through as there is for the main story. But I really hope everyone enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.